everyone, and welcome to another episode of Construction Voices, your trusted podcasts for all things construction in the Middle East. Today, I am joined by not one, but two special guests here at the studio. Haroon, Husam, thank you so much for joining us. It is our absolute pleasure.
Pleasure to be here.
How are you guys feeling today?
Very well, and thank you very much, Julianne. Pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So, on the podcast, we talk a lot about general construction theory and design principles, but we've never really dived deep into Saudi Arabia. We have, I guess the topics before centered around giga projects. But today we're going to be talking about claims and disputes, which is a topic that not a lot of people actually know about, especially young professionals in the industry. So I'm really excited to talk to you both about this topic today. Great. So before we dive deep into our conversation, can you both please share a little bit about yourself, your personal journey, and what brought you to the kingdom? Let's start with you, Haroon.
Sure. Thank you. So you might have heard an old saying that crime doesn't pay. It actually didn't pay for me. So I qualified as a barrister in London.
Wow.
I was doing a bit of criminal law, and it wasn't paying well. And it was just by fluke, really. I ended up in a QS practice working as a quantity surveyor in London. And this was back in 2007, which at that time, Hill International acquired that QS practice. And before you know it, the whole world of construction dispute resolution opened up to me. And I was quite fortunate then to start working on disputes. And then in 2011, there was an opportunity for me to move to Saudi. Mm-hmm. And I spoke to my wife. She'd actually been brought up in Jeddah. Okay. So for her, it was a no-brainer to move back to the kingdom. And for me, if I'm honest, it was an opportunity to try and save up a bit of money.
Yeah.
Save up for a deposit for a house and try something a bit different. And I thought I'll do it for a couple of years and go back to London.
Wow. 2011, I think that was when Saudi was still starting.
It was very different. Yeah, very different back then. So my 2-year journey to kingdom has been a continuous decade plus journey. And Saudi for me has become a home away from home.
Amazing. That's good background. Thank you, Haroon. Husam, let's go to you.
Thank you, Julian. I think my journey is maybe a bit more straightforward than that. I've always been interested in the built environment from a very young age. So it was very natural to me to qualify in civil engineering in university, and I did further higher studies in the field. I started my journey as a technical civil engineer with a focus on design and construction of complex bridges, which was quite exciting. And the journey took me to many very interesting places, from Europe to the Far East and eventually to the Middle East. And after 10 years of doing that, I got more attracted to the contract and commercial side of construction, which eventually led me into claims and dispute resolution in this sector. And I then joined what was then Hill, as Haroon mentioned, and now HK, of course, to lead our business in Qatar. And I think what attracted me the most to take up this role is in 2014, we were about 8 years away from the World Cup. Yeah. And it was a no-brainer really for me to take up this role and be part of what was then I would say the most exciting project or series of projects in the world, and to work for the biggest and oldest consultancy firm in our field in one of the biggest projects in the world was just too attractive a proposition to turn down. And it was a very successful journey until we delivered the World Cup in Qatar in 2022, as you know. And when that ended, I was thinking, oh my God, what next? I was twiddling my thumbs and thinking, what can top this? Yeah. And it was fantastic when the opportunity came. I was asked to lead our business in Saudi and to move to Riyadh. And, you know, deja vu, Julian. I'm now looking forward to another World Cup in Saudi, which is not far away, and everything that brings. So 2 World Cups in the region, plus everything else that's happening in Saudi was just too exciting too.
You know, Julian, during the Qatar World Cup, this guy did no work. he did no work, and I think
only during the month of the World Cup, I would say. Yeah.
Well, and I think he's really looking forward to 2034, where we're probably going to see him in every single stadium, watching every single match. That's where you'll spot him in Saudi.
I'll be that much older, and I think the body will have had its toll, but I will do my best to enjoy it. So yes, exciting times for sure.
Absolutely. I think the background that you both have makes a difference when you're coming from really, really big projects. And then you're right, Husam, I think once you've finished such a huge project, you're thinking, what's next?
Yeah.
But Saudi is a great place to be. I think even with working in the construction industry, you can't not look at it right now, especially with all of the mega and giga projects happening. So we certainly can't stop talking about Saudi, and which leads me to our conversation today, which I've mentioned in the beginning about claims and disputes. So I guess if there's one thing that we all know about construction, it's that things don't always go according to plan. Timelines get stretched and costs climbs, and sometimes, not everyone agrees on who's responsible. So the topic at hand for claims and disputes, I want to start off with a question to you, Husam. Given your role and what you've kind of covered in Qatar as well, how do you really see the current state of the construction industry in Saudi Arabia? What trends are you seeing currently? And I just want to hear your thoughts on that first.
Okay, look, I think to say that construction is booming in Saudi is a massive understatement, and I think everyone knows that, and we're very fortunate to be at the heart of it. So this boom will continue to grow, and the construction industry will continue to thrive over at least the next decade or so. Previously, Saudi was mainly, I would say, driven by or the economy was driven by oil and gas and investment in the oil and gas, and there is certainly a big shift at the moment, and the economy is diversifying. Mm-hmm. Saudi is a very young and vibrant population, with young Saudis very, very ambitious, and Saudi is changing. There's no two ways about it. It's attracting the attention of the world, and it's welcoming the world. Saudi wants the world to come and be part of this journey. So there's a lot of emphasis because of all that. There's a lot of emphasis on tourism, mm-hmm. and on leisure, on sports. It always amazes me how little is known about Saudi and the cultural side of Saudi and the historic side of Saudi. And this is all now coming through in projects like the Diriyah project, the Qiddiya project with all its entertainment, the Saudi entertainment ventures. Yeah. All these are PIF companies who are focused in tourism, culture, and education. So I think that will be a big factor driving the Saudi economy. Yeah. As well as healthcare and education. So this is a side of Saudi that is now developing, and the Saudi government is definitely focused in showcasing. But with that also comes a lot of challenges, and maybe Haroon can touch on these challenges.
Sure. I think from the challenges perspective, I mean, you've got all the great stuff that Husam just mentioned, mm-hmm. which in itself is a challenge, the delivery challenge. It's a market, I would say, really filled with unique challenges. You've got many contractors. If I look back from 2010, 11, there were contractors operating in the kingdom, mega international conglomerates, who have been hesitant to return. And I think there's a big challenge there. It's bringing those contractors back to Saudi Arabia to deliver on Vision 2030 and what comes after Vision 2030.
We've talked about, the complex disputes, but I want to know exactly how effective do you think is the current, dispute resolution mechanisms in Saudi Arabia, and do you think there are areas of improvement that we can look into in the next few years?
I think there's always room for improvement, of course, and I would start off by saying a lot has changed over the past decade or so. So that has to be noted, and Saudi has to be commended for that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's necessary, particularly where we're heading with all these massive projects. Previously, Julian, disputes, particularly on government contracts, were resolved through litigation in the Saudi courts, or through what was known as the Board of Grievance. The process was very convoluted and very long, very challenging, challenging for everyone, but particularly for international contractors. The process was lengthy. Not well defined. It was lengthy. Outcomes were vague, and it was conducted in the Arabic language, which was a big challenge for international contractors, and so on. But I would say, as I said, a lot has changed. There's been the recent introduction of the new civil code, which everyone knows about. The government contracts themselves have changed and are changing to be more equitable in terms of risk sharing and less onerous contractual terms, more attractive to contractors and attracting contractors to come back to this market from what they previously experienced. And also the establishment of the SCCA, the Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration, which has been a game changer really in the way disputes are handled. There's a very credible center now to do that, and it's gaining popularity and gaining the respect of everyone, really, local and international.
What strategies have been key to HKA's growth and success in the kingdom? Coming from, with all of your different work in Qatar as well, and what you've seen over there, what do you think have been crucial to you in operating in Saudi?
I would say there are many, but I don't think we have the time to go through everything. But I think front and center, I would say, is, our in-kingdom presence. Our long-established in-kingdom presence has put us in very good stead. And we weren't just established and based in Saudi as a sort of an outpost office. We've had senior management presence in Saudi from day one, and that has continued and grown. And I think we bring a lot of international experience with us, not just obviously Qatar. We work with a global company from the US all the way to Australia and everything in between. So we bring all that international experience with us, and that dovetails nicely with the demands of the local market. So we bring that international experience and make sure we apply it to what's required locally. I think as well as having an in-country team, there is a very strong bilingual Arabic-speaking element to our team, and again, that really matters.
We're talking about, HK is an international company, but what do you think what advice would you give international companies maybe looking to enter or expand into the kingdom?
There's something special happening in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I'd say, for people to experience that and to be part of a legacy and leave your own legacy. And I don't think many jurisdictions in the world can offer that. And therefore, a future where there's that opportunity can only be a bright future.
So I want to turn to you, Husam, first. What advice would you give to young professionals, maybe specifically Saudi young professionals who are looking to specialize in construction claims and in consultancy in the kingdom?
Look, I look back to when I was young, and that's quite a long time ago now, but I think to become a successful practitioner in claims and disputes in the construction industry, I think it's fundamental that at an early age or at the beginning of that journey for young up-and-coming aspiring consultants to have an understand, not necessarily a detail, but at least an understanding of the fundamentals of construction, how projects are built, the construction process, whether it's for buildings or roads or airports or whatever. As I said, not necessarily detailed, but I think once you understand the process of construction, you only then have a feel for making a case or arguing a case or defending your client, because you have that fundamental understanding. Now, I don't think everyone should be a civil engineer like I am to become a good claims consultant, although we do have debates in our company about that. But any field of people who are interested in this industry can succeed, and we are an example. I mean, Haroon is not a civil engineer, but he's made a successful career of being in this field. So I think that fundamental understanding is crucial, and so therefore they should get, even if they don't come from that background, to have training or courses in doing that, and the best time to do it is early days.
To the younger Saudi nationals, my advice would be stay consistent and stick at it with the firm or company that you're working with that is creating the opportunities. If you're getting the opportunities to learn from the best, to work on some of the most complex projects in Saudi Arabia, and you feel that personal development is happening, stay at it. Because what we are seeing is with the war for talent, the challenge in KSA is people are moving around. And as you move around, inevitably, other challenges also arise along the way. And because of the demands on localization, because of that war for talent, we see sometimes, I feel, people moving a bit too soon, just as they're about to get stuck into something which could be hugely rewarding from a career perspective. Right.
Thank you so much. We ended on a very wholesome note over there. Thank you, Husam and Haroon, for joining me today in this conversation.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap. If you like today's conversation, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to all of our streaming channels. As always, stay informed, stay ahead, and I will see you in the next one.